Yeah, today we deal with encapsulation. Now, encapsulation is the principle of OOPS. Encapsulation essentially means data hiding. Now, how exactly do we do encapsulation, and what exactly the benefit of encapsulation? Normally, we create a class. I'll just say class A and declare any variables in this, or I'll say class say person, and which has a variable say weight, and which has a variable say height. Any format, either in centimeters, or just take an example of giving height in centimeters. So we can manipulate these variables. uh, I can create an object of this class, and I can manipulate the variables by assigning any values to them through the reference variable p. I can say p dot weight, p dot height, and I can assign any suitable value that I think is appropriate. Now, using a class in this way has no restriction in the usage of these variables. I can use a variable in either way. I can assign any value to the variable. Now, in case I make these variables private, so then there is an access problem of accessing these variables outside the class person. Now we can see the error that comes in class in cap. It says the field person.weight is not visible. This is because any variable that is declared private can only be accessed so I define a method here details, which gives the details of a person. I'll say weight is so. As you can see, we're able to access the weight variable as well as the height variable in the same class person, because any variable which is declared private is accessible within the same class. However, it has a restriction that it cannot be accessed outside the class. So in a way, what we have done is we have prevented the access of these variables outside the class person. But the problem now is, when you cannot access this variable outside the class, so how do we utilize these variables? How do we assign any value to these variables? So to make these variables useful, we have a routine that we call as providing get and set methods to these variables. So I'll just define a get and set methods for weight and height. I can even do it through the uh, Eclipse. I'll just see generator getters and setters. I can generate for both height and weight. So now I have generated get weight, set weight. I have a get height, I have a set height. So these are the methods through which I can set and get the values of these variables outside the class person. So I'll just try to use this in class in cap. So instead of directly accessing the variables, I'll have to go through the methods. I'll say set height. I can pass any value, say 40, that was the earlier assigned directly. Now I can set weight, any value. So instead of a direct route in which I could have directly accessed the variables weight and height, I could have set them the requisite values. I have to use the methods set height and set weight, and I have to use the get and set methods to print their values. and to get so this is the normal routine of how we follow encapsulation in any class in Java. We need to declare every variable as private, so the access of the variables is limited within the class itself, and to make them useful we'll need to have get and set method, so as to we can set the value of the variable, and wherever required we can get the value of the variable. So I can just run and see if we are getting the proper values. I have set the weight to 70 and I have set the height to 40. So this is what the output we are getting. The value of weight 70 and height is 40. So encapsulation is primarily data hiding, where we have hidden the variables within the class and nobody outside the class knows what the values of the variables are. Now we have done this. Suppose I say p dot set weight -1. Now we all know -1 is not a legitimate value for weight, but some user might inadvertently pass a value such as -1 to weight. So we need to put a check here. I can just put a check here. If weight is less than I can say 0, then weight equal to any minimum value, or as we go forward we can even throw an exception in this case, because since weight less than 0 is not a legitimate value and we might not be able to progress in case we are working on this value of weight to generate some further value. But for time being what we can do is we can assign some default value in case weight is less than this, and else we can assign the value that the user has passed. So we are just trying to correct any wrong values that the user passes through this method. Otherwise, if we are passing the value directly, then I can simply say p dot weight is equal to -1, and there is no check possible to correct this value. So this method has provided an opportunity to provide some kind of check regarding the value that we are trying to set to the variable weight. So in case I try to pass this down as -1, so we'll assign a default value, say 10, and accordingly set the program running. So we got that value 70.